Hey everybody, it's George the Tech with a increasingly rare product review. It's been hard to find time to do product reviews, but I know it's time to carve out some time to get a review out. And that company today is Vanguard, and they presented me the Vanguard V4 Gen 2. Not a mic that's new to me because I did a review a couple years ago, link below, to the Gen 1, the original Vanguard V4. And I was incredibly impressed, and I've been recommending it ever since to voiceover actors. You're going to make comparisons clearly to the Gen 1, and I've got some photos I'll show you right here and right here and right here that compare the differences in size of the two microphones. It's a little bit larger. It uses the same exact shock mount, and I know that because I went over to one of my good long-time voiceover friends and clients, Rick Wasserman, who has the V4 Gen 1. I had Rick record both on the Gen 1 V4 that he owns and this new Gen 2, and we did a back-to-back, same script, same mic placement and everything, and I didn't even have to change the shock mounts. I was able to just simply thread out his and thread in this one, and we could get a nice comparison test. So that'll be coming up later in our review today. So let me show you the packaging it comes in. It's always nice to see how a company thinks of their packaging. It comes in a well-made, rigid case that's lockable. And when you open it up, you're going to see it's going to look a little bit like this. The wooden box that the microphone would come in. I'm talking into the mic now, so obviously it's not inside. And you've got a nice, hard, dense foam inside here. It's not squishy, cheesy foam. It's a real dense foam that's going to properly protect the microphone. Then you've got the Vanguard V4 multi-pattern FET condenser microphone quality and testing certificate. So they test individually every single microphone and serialize it. This is serial number 4. Ooh, a nice little short but well-written user manual, a sleeve to keep the dust off your microphone. If you're going to keep it up on your stand all the time, you might choose to slide this over the microphone. Some silica to keep everything dry, and this is just instructions on how to reset the combination on the case. All right, so let's look at the back of the microphone. This is where things have changed a bit more than the size, and that is what switches are available. Now, the switch that's familiar to you is the pattern switch, and you can switch between Omni, Figure 8, and Cardioid. Now, you might notice right now, I'm actually in Figure 8 mode. And you're probably going, why is he in Figure 8 mode? There's nobody else back here, right? That's a good question. I'm in Figure 8 mode because I want to have the most directional pattern I possibly can get to focus on my voice and reject sound from below the microphone. I don't want to hear the sounds of me typing, using my mouse, and I want to reject that. And so Figure 8 will do an excellent job of rejecting what's below the microphone. Also, what's on the sides of the microphone is rejected extremely well, and what's above. So I use Figure 8 for that reason. I find it's a good solution for rejecting more background noise in a lot of environments. Now, if your noise source is behind the microphone, that would be bad. So your mileage may vary. Now we're in cardioid pattern. Cardioid pattern is probably what the majority of voice actors would probably choose to use. It's the most pleasing overall for voiceover. Has a good tonal balance, a balance of proximity effect and everything. But it's interesting on this mic that switching patterns does not change the sound or tonal quality of the mic, hardly at all, which is really impressive. A lot of older mics, vintage mics, when you switch between patterns, there's actually a difference in tonal quality. Doesn't really seem to be the case here. And lastly, Omni, which I almost never ever use. And now we're in Omni. So the microphone picks up pretty much the same no matter where I am. There's a little bit of a sweet spot and it's in the front of the mic, but it mostly remains the same as I go all the way around the microphone, as you can hear. I'm going to go back to Figure 8. So that's the patterns. The other switch on this microphone right here is the pad switch. And this is something that really has changed. On the prior generation, in one position, or the center position, it was flat or off. That's how this one is. But it has two positions, and in one it's minus 10 dB pad, and in the other it's a minus 20 dB pad. On the prior microphone, in the other position, it wasn't a minus 20 dB pad, it was a low cut, which I actually really loved. Here's why. In most cases in my world of voiceover, You really either need one or the other. You either need a pad, and here I am popping the mic. I'll explain why it's easy to pop the mic in a second. You either need to pad the mic because you're going to be recording a very loud source, and that's rarely ever a voiceover. So you never really need to use a pad for voiceover. But a voiceover would actually appreciate and use a high pass filter or a low cut, because most voice actors are working from home and their studios have rumble. It's so common in condos and townhouses or any suburban or urban buildings. Rumble is a big problem. That mic had a low cut switch. This one, Gen 2, does not. So again, I'm curious to know what the decision was there. I have a guess, and it's a total guess, and that is they may have chosen to do so because having a low cut switch can sometimes increase the self noise of the microphone or add noise to the circuitry. I've heard that to be the case in some mics. So they may have chosen to remove that for that reason. So right now, you've probably noticed by now, if you're listening on headphones, that I'm using some processing, namely an expander, compressor, gate, an EQ, and a limiter, because this is my usual production chain when I'm doing podcasting, live streaming. This is the signal chain I might actually be running through. And today I'm using a PreSonus Revelator IO24 to do that job. I also have a Rodecaster Pro, that's my daily driver, but I'm also demoing and testing out the PreSonus Revelator and going through that chain. Now, let's hear what it sounds like without any processing, so you can hear what my actual room sounds like and what the noise floor is really more like. Now you're hearing the real deal. You're hearing the mic completely roller flat with zero processing of any kind. And you'll notice it's a very smooth top end mic. It does not have a bright, hyped top end. And I like that actually in a microphone for voiceover, because so many voiceover mics or mics used for voiceover, there are not a lot of voiceover mics, they're just mics that we use in voiceover, already overly hype up the top end, thereby bringing sibilance forward. And some folks with sibilant voices, a lot of these condenser mics that boost the top end mean they're going to have a much brighter sibilant recording that they have to fix later. Now here, with my voice, it's a little bit dull sounding because I don't have a bright shifted voice. Mine tends to be a little bit mid to low end. So the good news is this mic is hearing everything, right? It picks up the full range. And because it's a smooth EQ without a lot of dips and bumps in the frequency curve, it's very easy to EQ it and add something back in that you might like to hear, or remove something that may not work so well for you. So anyway, that's the honest to goodness sound of the microphone with no processing in my room during a very quiet, unusually quiet moment in my day. Let's just hear what the ambient room tone sounds like. Cue the jet. And now let's turn on my processing. Ah, that's better. That's the difference with processing and no processing, because there's always folks that want to say, you're using processing. I know I'm using processing. I just want to get the cleanest and least annoying sound for you guys to hear for this presentation. All right, well, let's give a listen to those samples I recorded with Rick Wasserman. The first one you're going to hear is the Generation 1 V4, and then followed by the Generation 2 V4. I turned the low cut switch off on the Gen 1 to make sure that the two mics could be compared properly, because normally he has his low cut switch engaged on the Gen 1. They are feeding into an Apollo Twin Mark II, and he's using the API Vision channel strip as the input channel strip with just a tad bit of processing. Now these two files are level matched to LUFS minus 24 dB. So they're going to match levels wise. So levels won't throw you off. All right, let's take a listen.
They've prowled Earth's oceans and seas for more than 400 years and survived 5 mass extinctions. They might be the world's favorite real-life monsters. But how monstrous are they really? Renowned predators, sharks are also vulnerable prey with surprising sex lives. However you look at sharks, they're more complex than anyone gives them credit for. If we want to know all there is to know about sharks, we're gonna need a bigger boat. They've prowled Earth's oceans and seas for more than 400 million years and survived 5 mass extinctions. They might be the world's favorite real-life monsters. But how monstrous are they really? Renowned predators, sharks are also vulnerable prey with surprising sex lives. However you look at sharks, they're more complex than anyone gives them credit for. If we want to know all there is to know about sharks, we're going to need a bigger boat.
What are my thoughts on the Vanguards? If you really want to get into it and hear a little bit more detail about why I like this mic and why I recommend it, definitely go back and watch my prior review of the first one, and you'll hear and see why I love the mic so much. Now it's just a matter of refinement here, clearly. They are refining what they've already created. Obviously, lowering the self-noise is part of that. The first microphone was quiet, but it wasn't like world-class quiet in terms of its self-noise. They have managed to improve it, and I've got the specs down below. You guys can check that out and see the comparison between the noise floor readings, or the self-noise, I should say. It's still a great microphone. It still has all the qualities of the first one that I loved. Lacking the high-pass filter, that's my only negative. I love having it for convenience because so many voice actors just don't have that feature in their audio interfaces. They don't have a switch or a button they can press because they're not using a mixing console or a channel strip. Anyway, thank you, Vanguard. I really appreciate you sending the mic and letting me give it a test run here. I had to send this mic back. I had to get this done because this mic needs to go on to some other folks to check it out. It's one of the first 4 of the production run, so it's going to go back. But I hope you guys found this helpful and that you're getting a better idea of what the Vanguard V4 has to offer, at least in the context of voiceover. Now, this microphone is not a voiceover mic. It's a studio mic. You can use it for whatever the heck you want. It's obviously going to have its home in vocals, but it's also going to work great on instruments. I can imagine using this on a guitar, maybe hung over a piano, possibly drum overheads. There's a lot of reasons that this microphone could shine in a recording studio, especially even in a stereo pair. If you want me to review anything else, or if there's something else out there you want to hear, or there's something I did poorly in this review, or there's something you'd love me to do better, type a comment down below, and I'll get back to you another time. If you want to find me around the web, I'm at George the Tech all over the place, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I'm at George the Tech everywhere. And if you want to follow me, please click subscribe, and you'll never miss another video. Thanks again. Have a good one.